Ben from BBC Sport, and Fabio from YLD, wherever he is, over there, the right at the very back. I think we'll have a break between the second and third speakers. Anyway, thank you all for coming. Big thank you to Skills Matter and Code Node for hosting us. Couple of announcements. Use react.london instead of meetup.com for now on, that'd be great. And if you want to tweet, hashtag reactlondon. Finally, of course, Red Badger's hiring. So anyway, let's go. Kadi, Draft.js, go for it. Thank you.
Right. Hello, thank you all for coming to our amazing meetup. I'm Kadi, I work for Red Badger. And just to start with a disclaimer, last weekend, instead of writing my slides, I was in a castle in Germany with the other Badgers in a summer party. So I was writing most of these slides on a train back from the castle. So some of the pictures from the castle might have made their way in there. So sorry. That's not what I wanted. There you go. What is Draft.js? Could we have a show of hands, like who's ever used Draft.js? 1, 2. Okay, there's like 10 people. This is a good question to start with then. So Draft.js is another framework from Facebook, and this time it's for rich text editing, which is an annoying problem. So rich text editing, so things like having bold text and italic text and links and images and stuff. So it was announced, I think, in the Paris React Meetup, React conference, so earlier this year. So it's quite recent. This is a screenshot I took yesterday, so it's got like 7,000 stars, so it's doing all right. So basically, it's a rich text editor, which is built for React, so it's really good to use if you're building your application in React. It's completely customizable, so like there's no like dependencies of like how you want to set up your application or what your UI is going to look like or anything. And it's got an immutable model inside. So it's using immutable.js. So if you have a lot of love for immutable, which we'll do, this one for you. Right, so the title of the talk is Draft.js in the real world. So I was on a project on Red Badger where we encountered the problem of rich text editing, and we were like, hey, something came out last month, so we'll try it. So our project was a CMS, very exciting, which is not, but we're trying to make it exciting. And to quickly go through the tech, we use what we call the, very catchy, the full Facebook stack. We love Facebook. So we got Node.js, React, Redux, Redux Form, Redux Sagas, JSON schema. So we had Anna from my project give a talk 2 months ago about how we use JSON schema and Redux Form together. So it's the same project. And when it came to having a rich text editor, we were like, obviously, Draft.js. So to complete the stack. Right, so I'm going to start with a demo. So this is an example from the Draft.js like examples page. So if I just like say hello world, I can add some styles to it. I can make it a quote, and you can see that you can see which styles are being activated, and like some of them are like inclusive, some of them are exclusive. You can't have H2 and H4 together. Okay, so that's like the basic example that you get. I've literally just downloaded that from the Draft.js thing. Obviously, our rich text editor that our amazing designers gave us looked nothing like this. So, our project, which I set up here. So, as I said, this is a CMS for a client, and one of these fields is a rich text field. Can you tell which one? Is this one. So our designers wanted that the editor toolbar, for example, only comes to life when like on focus. You don't see it all the time. And And basically, you can select things, you can make them bold, you can have a list. You can have links. Okay, you can see the link on hover. So you can see that this looks very, very different from the example, Draft.js example I showed you. Oh, another cool feature, like we had an image picker. So here, you choose an image. And we also needed to be able to use the same image picker inside here. And thankfully, because we got React, we can. Yeah, it's very nice. And another feature that we needed, for example, so this is all made using Redux form as well. So it's all like the form data is immutable, and the rich text edited data is immutable, so it's immutable around. Right, to go back here. Whoops. It's going to give a code example. So this is like from the rich text editor render function, like just to like kind of give you an idea of how it's built. So the editor here. So this is the editor from the Draft.js package. And this field is from Redux form. So the field has like an on-click, on-focus, on-hover, all that stuff. The editor state, so that's the most important thing. That is the immutable state that you have in an editor. You kind of, if you have an initial value, for example, you put it in the constructor. And you can override if you want to. And we, for example, needed to override the on-change. So like from the field, we have an on-change, but here we override it because Draft.js automatically, you can export stuff as HTML, but we, because of the thing we integrated with, needed to export it as Markdown. So we had to like override the on-change to convert the HTML into Markdown. And this read-only because we need to support read-only fields. And there's some more stuff here. Oh, and the style buttons. See in the ribbon that came on the right. So that is another React component, which has like this, the styles, which is like an array of JSON objects, which will build the styles functions. What else do we have? Oh, yeah. So for example, you know when you put a link, like I put a Google link on there. So the link, like how it should be rendered, is also like a functional component. So you can see that you get the link key from there, and like I had like an on-hover little tooltip, and you can see that it's got like a class name. And if you look at this class name, it's got a little tooltip thing. Right. So the problem that we had, like I said earlier, is that Draft.js supports really, really well exporting into HTML, but we needed to export into this weird Markdown that our CMS supported. So I had to write a library for this, which I've open sourced because I spent quite a lot of time looking into how like the Draft.js internal data structures look like. So I make a little bit of sense. So here in the constructor, if you've got a default value, you can convert it into the Draft.js internal data structure, and then you create the immutable data structure, and then you can create the editor state from it. Here, oh, not this one. In the tests, it's actually quite interesting to see how like the Draft.js state is made up. So for example, here, this is the Markdown thing. So I've got no style, bold, no style. And then the this is what the Markdown state looks like. So you've got like basically inline style ranges. So it says like when the style starts from, how long it was, and like what the style is. So bold, italic, whatever. It's like it gets a lot more complicated, but yeah. Anyway, that's the thing. So our learnings, the good bits. It's really, really customizable. Like you can do anything. Like you designers can come up with like a ridiculous UI, and you can have ridiculous requirements. You can have like, okay, when I type Bluebell, like an image of a Bluebell comes up, like you can program that into your rich text editor. You can like hook into import and export events and like build whatever you want. It's got really good documentation. The Draft.js website, like they've gone through a lot of effort documenting everything. They've got a Slack channel, which I used occasionally. where I got quite a lot of help. So thank you if anyone was there. And also there's like a Draft.js plugins community. So they do things like already inbuilt things for like rendering hashtags or URLs or something. The challenge is it's extremely customizable. So it's got a ridiculous learning curve. So when you pick it up, like you get nothing out of the box. You're just, it's like, I like to say that it's like the D3 for rich text editing. You get the paintbrushes and you get the colors, but like, and kind of the instructions, but it's like IKEA, you just kind of have to build it yourself. You can do whatever you want, but you have to do it yourself. So if you're ready for a bit of a challenge, yeah. Would I use it again? Maybe, unless there's something. If it was a different thing, I would probably try a different thing. It was an interesting experience. Yeah. Thank you. That's the castle, by the way.
Has anyone got any questions? Has anyone used content editable directly or tried any other editors? I know, they're all bad, right? It's just terrible. I mean, content editable is such a difficult thing to work with. And I think Draft.js actually is probably one of the better
It's
ones.
the best one for React. Like, if React is like already like a known evil, and like rich text stuff is a known evil, then like they go really together. Like they go really well together. Like the immutable stuff is really good, and like once you understand it, it's really good. But it's like you have to build every single editor from scratch. Like this, that you can't ever go like, okay, that worked in this project, and I'm just gonna like, because they tried to do it in a different project in Red Badger, and like it just didn't work because you need to.
Because they weren't as clever as you.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Kadi. Anyway, sorry.
Hi. I want to find out how copy and pasting is handled in Draft.js. So if I copy a picture, for example, and try to paste in the editor, what happens?
I don't know. Should I try?
Okay, cool. Fair enough.
No, I've still got the slides because this is real, so I should be able to get. Right. Just works.
But like with other stuff like tables and yeah, if there's a hook for it, then yeah, that's fine. Cool. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know, but.
Cool. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Did you ever have a requirement to have inline editing of content rendered elsewhere that you would want to edit from React?
So you want to edit things from React, but you want the rendered page to appear next to it?
Yeah, like a lot of CMSs provide that you render your HTML.
Yeah. No, I know
like,
exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So that was the other project that I was referring to in Red Badger, and they started off using Draft.js, starting with like what I was making, and they ended up using Scribe, which is a rich text editing framework from The Guardian, I think, and they found that a bit easier. Like I haven't tried Scribe, so I don't know the comparison.
I've got a question regarding Redux form.
Yeah.
So you've integrated Redux form with Draft.js.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, which version did you use? And if you used the last version, did you have to use any specific performance hooks to get it to run fast? Since it does an on-change event on every keystroke, doesn't it?
No, that's a good question. And we didn't use the latest one. When we started the project, the latest one wasn't out. So we used the previous one, and we wanted to upgrade, but we couldn't. But not due to Draft.js. It was due to because in the latest version, you had to define the name of the form like before rendering it, and like that didn't work in our CMS. So I don't know how it would work in the context of Draft.js, I'm afraid. But so I know that the previous one definitely worked.
So you used the latest version, right?
We didn't use the latest version, no.
Sorry, the latest version meaning you used the old version, not version 6.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to use any performance hooks to get it to run?
No, it was fine. Because
Okay.
you can just override the on-change events, and it was fine. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you. Ben Lambert from BBC Sport.
So I need to share screen using the screen button. Yeah. And fantastic. Yes. Sweet. Cool. Great. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now. Just give us 1 second. Yeah. Doesn't work.
Oh, just plug in.
Sorry. Yeah.
Missing that bit, right? Yeah. It's all right.
I can just do it like this. Like.
So, yeah. Makes me think it was all done like Hangouts, it's really cool and everything. And it's like transmit things. No,
What have you got there?
I don't know. I'll be honest. Right, should we try it? We got this in mind. Let's just do that. Yeah. Try that.
Yeah, you got these as well.
Yeah. Jesus, there's quite a lot of dongles there.
Yeah. Never know.
Seriously. See how many people speak here? Look at all the different devices they use. Okay. I have speaker notes now as well. I was going to wing the entire thing without speaker notes, but now we're all right. Okay. Oh, I've lost my hangout. Oh, sorry.
So just once again,
wait.
screenshot. Yeah.
Right. We'll just do. I'll do that one for now. I might have to switch screens when I go to the demo, but we'll see. Okay.
Yay.
Right.
Okay.
Everyone hear me? Yes. Okay. Fine. So I'm Ben. I'm going to be talking today about powering the BBC with React and Node. I kind of sometimes wow. Okay. Big bang. Is that me? What have I broken? I've literally been stood here. What have I broke? Tech diff.
Oh, that's what it is. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's try again. Yeah. Oh, over my shoulder. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's try again. Okay. So yes, I'm going to talk about powering the BBC with React and Node. I need to switch back to my slides because I've lost them. There we are. Okay. So first off, who am I? This is me. I am a senior engineer at BBC Sport. I've been at the BBC for 3 years now. And I've not always been in sport. I only switched about 18 months ago to go to sport. So first off, what am I responsible for? So I started doing I Wonder guides. I first joined Knowledge and Learning, is what it's called. This is the first project I did at the BBC, and this is what it looks like. It was the BBC's way of doing short form content. We'd get people that were kind of renowned in their fields, like Brian Cox and stuff like that, and get them to write short form content, just educatory content, I guess. But more recently, I work on something called BBC Live. So this is what our latest version of BBC Live looks like. Anyone seen a page like this? Hands up. Yeah, sweet. Cool, I'm at the right place. So BBC Live doesn't just do sporting events and stuff like that. It also does stuff like train spotting live. We've had Blamming live, Spring Watch live, any live event kind of that we do at the BBC. We've always had it through this platform. So about the BBC, I guess you all know who the BBC are. But we do kind of a lot of traffic. So I've got a quick numbers game, right? So anyone that guesses what these numbers are, I'll buy you a drink after. I say that it's his free bar, which helps me. But anyway, so 21.4 million. This is sorry, I should elaborate that this is stats taken from a week, right? So this is just sport pages. Every page here is kind of powered by React and Node as well. So 21.4 million. Can anyone guess what that is? Nearly close. Yeah, that'll do. Look, unique browsers. This guy gets it. He's got it. I'll get you a drink. 59.1 million. Yes, it is. Were you here last week when I gave this talk? I'm sure you might have been. Anyway, 1.05 billion. No. This. No. This is amount of updates pushed. Okay, bugs. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it really has been with me for about anyway. So this is in one day. So 14.4 million. So I'm just going to fill this one in. So this is the unique page views for the Wales versus England match in the Euros, I think. Yeah. So we had a peak of 1.2 million WebSocket connections for just that one page on that day, which is mental. That's probably one of the highest numbers we've seen. So yeah, we've been doing big numbers. So what I'm going to learn today, what are you going to learn today? Well, I'm going to learn that I'm not very good at talks, but anyway, it's fine. So what you're learning, you're going to learn an overview of our internal systems. It's going to be a quick whistle-stop tour, I guess, about how we do stuff internally. And I know there's a talk on GraphQL and Relay and stuff like that. So I'm not going to dive too much into GraphQL a bit, but I just want to do a little bit about containers. Anyone heard of what containers are? Anyone use Relay containers? A few people? Yeah, sweet. Okay, cool. So let's begin. So BBC Live, like I said, this is kind of what it used to look like. This is the version 1 of the live page that we built. But also it's shared across multiple teams in the BBC. So we built BBC Live based on the idea that we were going to share the platform underneath. So news came along and was like, oh, sweet, we can use that. We can share it. So they're all powered by the same thing underneath, which is BBC Live. So initially it was, this one, for instance, not the one that you saw earlier with Murray. This is an Angular web app. Probably the wrong place to talk about Angular, but anyway. So why Angular? Yes, I know you're all thinking that right now. So we decided to use Angular for a number of reasons. There's two that kind of stood out. So dynamic layouts. So we need to change like what pages look like based on data. So for instance, if there's something that's happened in the match, or we want to add a vote because something kind of has happened, we can do that kind of easily. We can add new components based with Angular. Updates, they're also pretty easily. We can redraw components and stuff like that. So this was kind of good. This was good. But what did we find? Or what could we have done better? So there's no server-side rendering, right? So like most MVC frameworks, everything's kind of done in the client, which means that if you've got a 3G phone or like a terrible phone, you're kind of stuck with like a white page for a bit until you get some data through where you can actually render stuff. Also, no JavaScript's kind of the same. So the BBC has quite a lot of browsers that aren't just on like high-tech, laptops and stuff like that, and Chrome and Android phones. We also have a lot of screen readers and stuff which don't run JavaScript, right? So if we don't have a page where we can support non-JavaScript viewers, they're not going to get any content, which isn't great. So we had to come up with a solution to do that, and it just involved a lot of duplication, and it wasn't great, right? The other thing we found is that it's slow and it's janky. And I'll just give you a demo. There's a video here, right? So this is what it looks like on a simulated 2G connection. So we reload the page here, and you'll see that kind of when it loads. So you get this to start off with, and then some data comes in, and you get popping and pushing, and it moves the whole thing back. It's not a great experience, right? So what did we do? So we did this. So we got React, right? So we started using React. That's how we built the new V2, right? So the problem is that moving away is not always easy, right? So we've got this Angular app. We want to kind of take a lot of stuff we've learned out of that and put that into React. And it's the pain points that I'm going to kind of speak about today. So this is the system that we have, this one. So it's really simple, right? So you have the person on the right, the user on the left, and what happens is they make a connection to a web server. That web server will make calls to our transformation engine, which is this. So this is something internally we call Morph. It's isomorphic JavaScript, how we call it Morph. It's basically just it's basically individual functions and React classes can be addressed over the web with a URL, basically. I would do a massive talk about all that, but no one really wants to know about an internal system because you're not going to get anything out of it. But that's kind of what it does, essentially. Once that's rendered a server-side document, which is this, we pass that back to the user. And then when they get that in a web browser, they can open a connection to a WebSocket service to get updates and stuff like that. Yeah? That's pretty simple, right? So to recap, we switched from Angular. We now use React, and our internal system's pretty simple. So this is what I want to go on to. This is the main bit about today, is React containers. Like I said, I don't want to cross too far over into kind of the next talk that might come on and talk about Relay. But the problem that we had is that when we kind of dished out this transformation engine kind of service, everyone started writing React, right? We noticed that there's a lot of boilerplate in kind of each React view, let's say that. So when for instance, I'll just show you an example. So if you imagine this is a React class, and then what we have is you have this.state equals data, and then this is synchronous in this sense, but it might not be, it might be async, to go and get some data. And this was kind of repeated a lot throughout a lot of React classes that we were seeing. So, or, that's a very small or you might see something like this. So this is async data fetching. So you go fetch some data, you get the response, you turn it to JSON, you then set the state as that, and then you go set up some WebSockets, or you set up some stores, or you alert, or you, I don't know, you do a lot of stuff after that. It's just mental, right? So this is kind of what, right? Well, why are we doing this? There's got to be an easy way to do this, right? So, so what we call this, what we kind of refer to it is like it's just a pollution of the view with the data requirements, right? The view doesn't really need to know about its data; it should be given its data. So ideally, we want to turn something that looks like this into something that looks like this, right? It's really simple. It's just the H1, but instead of being state, it's props. It's just passed in, right? That's kind of what we're trying to get towards. So, like I said, this is what Relay and GraphQL kind of solve. So this was announced. Relay and GraphQL was announced at React Europe, I think, last year. But the problem for us with GraphQL is that we couldn't get it to fit because everything's in this transformation engine. It's quite difficult for us to write a GraphQL server on top of that. So, but the principles that you learn from something like GraphQL and Relay are just as good as doing it in practice. So this is a quote I'm just about to make up. You don't need to use something in practice to implement the good principles it teaches just now. So this is where I come on to containers, right? So this is kind of what a container tries to teach. So you have your view at the top, which is the same view. This dot props the data title, but the container. This is the thing that you really want to care about, and this is the thing that Relay tries to teach with its container. So you export the container rather than your main class, and then you provide. Sorry, I'm in the way. You provide your data requirements as a second argument to this function, and this creates you just another class. So these are what Facebook are calling them higher order components, which take a React class and wrap it with a lot of stuff to kind of set up. So this is just a JSON endpoint, for instance, but we're just passing through that data into the class. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? Okay, so this is the demo bit. So there's a GitHub repository called that. You can work along now if you want, or you can just do it in your own time. But let's build our own container. So I've got, let's see if this is going to work. Right, this could be interesting. Okay. Is my Hangout still working? Yeah, sweet. Okay. So I have, hold on, I'll spin that off. Don't save. Right. Can everyone see this? Yeah, everyone can see that, right? So this is what I mean about it being a little bit whacked. So we have our data requirements kind of here. They're fetching this endpoint / data random name. I'll show you what the entire thing provides, or what I've got set up. So yeah, that's fine. Hi again. So if I do grunt build and node app, and I'll show you what this actually does. So I have this server set up. So we got a view here. So you don't have to shout out if you're not this. So basically, I took a list of all the Twitter handles that were signed up to this event, and I made an API out of it, and it just generates you a random one. And then when you go to this page, it's just a React view that just kind of shows the different people here. So you don't have to shout out if it is you. It'd be nice if you did, but it's fine. And then basically, this is the React view, right? And then we have a different API, which is just random name, which just /data / random name, and this will just return you. It's just a JSON API, just returns different names, right? So this is what the class looks like. So we make, when the React class bootstraps, it will go and fetch some data from this data random name, and then change the JSON, and then set the status name, right? Pretty simple. Okay. So what we want to do though is move all this logic kind of out of here and into something we call a container. I can't make this left bit any bigger, but first off, so we can start by let's create a new file called container.jsx. And then let's do here export default function, create. And then this is going to take a React class, like we said earlier, and then some requirements. It's then, sorry, my down key's broken, so I have to kind of go up a lot to get where I need to go. Import React from React. It's not funny. You should try doing this at work. It's not fun. Honestly, everyone's like, why? No. Anyway, so we go back to our component now, and we can do import container from container, and then we can kind of move all this logic out of here, right? We can just bin all that off. We bin all this fetch data stuff off because we don't need that anymore. And I think that's fine. And then we just turn this to a prop, right? So we just return this to props name instead because it's going to be passed in. So we can get rid of all this. We can literally just get rid of the entire thing. In fact, yes, we can. So we get this. But then instead of exporting this, we need to export the container itself, right? So that's going to be the function that comes back. So we'll just do class Twitter name, extends that. And then we can just do export default container. And then the container is going to be comprised of two parts, which is the data requirements and the class. So the class is Twitter name, and the data requirements. So you can pass them multiple ways. The way that we do it at the BBC is we wrote our own container, which is a little bit more advanced than this. So sometimes you need the props in the container that's actually passed to the original component in the first place. So you can kind of do this stuff as a function. But for now, just for demo purposes, I'm just going to say that the, in fact, I'll do it as a function anyway. We'll call it a data function. And then this is going to return, return down key again. This is going to return something called, I don't know, let's say this is going to be the name endpoints. Let's key it off by name, and it's going to be localhost 808e/data/random name, right? And then what we can do is use this name endpoint here, because that's going to get passed as a prop to our class. It's going to get injected in. So we just say this.props even, sorry, not prop. This.props.name endpoint, which is going to be this stuff resolved as a JSON object .name, because it comes back on .name as the API, right? So let's implement this bit. It shouldn't take too long. I'm just going to whiz through it. It's obviously it can be refactored and stuff. I'll push all this up to that GitHub repository. If someone wants to contribute, I don't know, and raise a PR, please do, because this is going to be hacky as hell anyway. So let's go back to our container. So what we want to do is do return class extends React.component. And then we can do super. Constructor. Even I'll just move all this. I'm not really going to worry about the lifecycle methods because I know basically if you're going to get data, the way that Facebook tell you to do it is to kind of do it in the component will mount and did mount. I'm not really going to worry about that just now. I'm just going to do it in the constructor just to prove the point that it all actually works. So we have our constructor here. If this does go wrong and it doesn't work, I do have it checked out in certain stages that I can just show you. So it's gonna, if it doesn't work, I can just show you what it should look like. So we call our constructor, and then we need to do this dot state equals just an empty object. The data is going to be empty because we don't have anything, but the data requirements is going to be the requirements. So that's what we're going to do. Is we're going to, sorry, I should really buy Sublime. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, it's fine. So the render method is basically going to be very simple, right? All we need to do is we're just going to return the React class, which is gets passed in. But the props, obviously, we're going to pull out of our state. So it's actually going to be, I can never remember how to do the spread. I'm pretty sure it's like this, and then it's this dot state, I think. And that's going to spread our state across that. So basically, this state.data will become the data prop that's passed into the React class, which we know already we're going to use as this.props.data, .name endpoint. That's what we're going to pass into the class, right? So we have our container back here. So now we need to go and actually make these requests. So I'm just going to do them here. Let's do this dot fetch data. Let's call that. Sorry. Fetch data equals this. You have to do the binding manually now in the S6, which is annoying. But anyway, I do need super. Yeah, yeah. Someone's looking. Yep. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So then we have our fetch data method, which is just going to do object.keys. So this is the object that we pass through here, which is this data function here. In fact, I actually need to call that dot data. Sorry. So we go through each of the data requirements, which is this dot state dot data requirements, and then we do for each one of them. We have our key. We know that our URL is going to be this dot state dot data requirements key. So that's going to give us back our URL that we need to hit, which is this localhost random name thing. We can then make a fetch for this. So we just do fetch URL, but then what do I need to do? Then let's parse it as JSON. So we do response.json. And then what we can do is we can take our response that gets sent back and set that as the state which gets passed into the prop of the child class, right? That makes sense so far? So which is going to be this dot state dot data, and then the key equals response. I think I might have to do this for now. Let's just do force update. Let's just make sure it works. Hopefully, this line what? 17. Data, yes. Requirements. Yes, sweet. Okay. Sorry? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Honestly, can you compare program with me? Honestly, this would be great. Right, let's try this. Hopefully this should work. If it doesn't, I'll just check it out and show you and pretend like we've just done it all. I'm well impressed I haven't got a React error in that at all. Cool. Okay, so now if I go to /view, shit. Okay, currently property name of undefined, line 45. Oh, it's probably because that doesn't exist, which is fine because it's not going to exist just yet. Let's just, sorry. the reason it's not going to render server side is because the fetch is async, right? So the first time it tries to render, it's not going to work because it doesn't have that data cached. So let's just check if this.props.data.name endpoint, then do that. Else return. That'll do. If this.props.data and that. Try again. Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's kind of really simple. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So obviously, refresh this. It doesn't do server-side rendering yet. I don't know if I've got enough time to do that, so I'm probably just going to leave that. But that's kind of it done. I said I was going to talk about WebSockets, but to make room for that very lengthy demo, I got rid of it. But if anyone does want to know about WebSockets and how we scale them at the BBC, come talk to me, and I can help that out for you and explain how we do it. So last off, come speak to me. I have plenty of stories. That's me done. Sweet.
Thanks, Ben. Anybody got any questions?
Nope.
There must be some.
No, sweet. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to have a short 10-minute break. Grab a beer if there's any pizza left, and then we'll come back for Fabio's talk.
Sorry about that.
We'll see when I connect the second screen. If it still works. Yeah. Yeah, I can see everyone.
Are you good?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just trying not to step on anything.
Zoom in. And now
That has a cell phone. Will it interfere?
Just switch it on and start talking.
Just do it now.
Just do it now.
Cool. Oh. Oh shit! I can be heard.
We can mute me.
Don't do it. Yeah.
Great.
There you go. Decimate.
Give us a second.
So you guys can hear me and stuff? Cool. So, yeah, today I want to talk to you guys about some stuff I've been doing in the Economist as a contractor for YLD. And this is a story about using React, GraphQL, and Relay in an actual production project, which is slowly finding its way into production. So you'll find like a plethora of really weird stories, which seem uncorrelated, but they really are. And I might mention that. By the way, YLD is going to have a React crash course in the 2nd of August. I think I will be there. Okay, I'm not in the thing, so I may not turn up. So yeah. And yeah, as a short disclaimer, I'd like to say that the opinions expressed in this talk are entirely my own. And this is for various reasons, because this project is a specific thing, and because I have my specific emotions, and they are very different from other human beings. And yeah, these are not the opinions of my employer, The Economist, or anyone in the entire universe, as you can see by my wallpaper. This is my actual wallpaper. So yeah, I'm Fabio Santos. I look like that sometimes. Scary, right? And yeah, I work for YLD, which is a company which is hiring right now. If you want to be a contractor, which actually goes to a company and does a product and then walks off into the sunset, this is the place to go. I'm actually serious, and I love it. That's why I'm on YLD. And yeah, I like building compilers, and I had the biggest module on NPM until someone took it down. 8 gigabytes. So yeah, the module was called Your Mom, and it had had some jokes in it, and apparently someone didn't like it. So yeah, your mileage may vary, because this project is pretty specific to what we were doing. So yeah, I'm going to cover React. So talk a little bit about CSS, which I love. We were building an isomorphic application. We're building a single-page application, and how we interact with third-party libraries. If you know from any publishing website, you go in there and like your browser downloads a shit ton of third-party libraries, which they think is good, but it actually crashes my phone. And even the thing we're building is currently crashing my Firefox on my quad-core. So yeah, I blame third parties. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about GraphQL. and give you some random tips about it. And I'm going to talk about Relay, the new kid on the block, which was kind of an epic experiment, which had a lot of ups and downs. So first, React. We didn't quite go into the inline styles thing. We are not cool enough, but we basically used CSS. So it turns out that if you use BEM to choose your class names and your CSS file names, and if you avoid too big of a specificity, you're good. And we did something which is really cool, which I learned from my previous job, which was in a huge website in Portugal. Like you just put all your style in the style tag on the top of the page, and so you get renders on a single request. And gzip loves this shit. Gzip is going to take your class names and it's going to just mangle everything together, and like it makes a ton of sense, especially if your CSS is minimalistic, which we took great care to have that kind of CSS. So about isomorphic codes, this is like wonderful. So it has gone so well. We basically share the components codes in the server and the client, which you may be familiar with. We just do some browser detection, like is window there? It's a browser. Cool. Do some browser stuff. It works without JavaScript, which is a neat feature. It's not so useful because everything runs JavaScript. It's not even good for SEO, but it gives you more performance, which is cool. And it was straightforward. Definitely. Oh shit. Yeah, I'm totally going off slide here. No, this is not. Yeah, so one of the best things about. Boom. There you go. So this is about third parties. This is a big part of my place there, and what I was trying to integrate the best I could. So the thing on the top is basically the if you only take one thing from this talk, it should be this. This is the best thing ever in the universe. It gives you a promise for a script. This is like GetScript from like 10 years ago, which everyone had their own function, which would add a script to the page and put a source on it and wait for it, and in a gazillion different ways. But you may have your opinions on promises and callbacks, but one of the big advantages it has is you can do a promise right now for something, and 500 years later you can come and listen to it, and it'll tell you, yeah, it's here, cool. So promise script was huge for this. It helped us make our code a lot more sane, and it's some anonymous module in the middle of npm, which no one seems to be using. So I thought I'd put it out here. React i39 from Yahoo helps you integrate stuff. It creates like an integration tree where you can say like, this is the top of the page and this is the middle of the page. And inside that you can have some links, and then you can create plugins for it, or you can use pre-made plugins. There aren't many, but it's easy to create one. And these plugins are going to have like the information when you click something that this is the middle of the page, and also that this is this link, and you can nest it arbitrarily. So that's pretty neat. And yeah, stuff with third parties, like the synchronous third-party people who want to put a script tag on a page and they want to delay your page loads, they will delay your page load indefinitely. And if they are down, your browser is going to time out after 60 or 120 seconds, depending, until it decides not to fetch that thing after all and then continue. So yeah, this is terrible. In 2016, like third parties don't know what is a dynamic page change. So like the basis of our work in single page applications is that you change your URLs and you change content dynamically, and third parties don't know how to do it. It constantly baffles me. And one of the best third parties we were dealing with, like Google, who is an advert company, not a search company, they have you load all your ads at once in the same tick, in the JavaScript tick. You can't even like set immediate with that. And they have to load all at once if you need to serve roadblocks, which is basically like when you want to have 5 ads from the same company and then pay more money for that. Super cool, super lucrative. But yeah, good luck trying to keep your code sane after this. So again, can you still read this? Maybe? So yeah, this is basically the thing. Use promise script. You have a module with your third parties where you encapsulate them away in a dark corner of your application, and you just return a promise for them. And yeah, you can easily deal with dependencies between them. Like you can just say that Google custom search should always load after this loads, just by doing then, which is super cool. And yeah, like in your components, you do third party, you import it, third party, then whatever you want to do. And this means that the components don't care about loading it. And that you can pass mocks for it. Yeah, whatever. You know the drill. And this is one of the best things about promise script, which is yeah. Oh, I skipped a slide, didn't I? Yeah. So this is for end-to-end tests. This is a cool trick that we found. It was like, we have this secret flag, which I'm not going to tell you, and it's secure because you don't know. That if it's on, like it puts stuff on the window, like 2 functions. This one starts the application by doing the classic React DOM render thing. And this one loads the third parties one by one, actually in parallel. And you basically can write tests like this. So hopefully you're not using Nightwatch.js. And you run some code on the client, which loads the third-party libraries, puts spies on them, and then you can do assertions on those spies after you call the application, which is like incredibly cool because you can do an end-to-end test, which actually goes until the point you call the thing. It asserts that the thing did not crash when you called it, and it just tests a lot of stuff. Of course, these are not your unit tests. These are basically your end-to-end tests, which actually will go down if Google goes down. But this was really good. At the same time, like the team which was next to us, they shipped, and after a month, they realized they had no analytics. So, and we were like laughing, literally. We're terrible. So I'm going to just zoom out of the client view for a bit because we're going to the server-side stuff. So this is an actual thing which I drew for a new guy who came to work with me. So this is the infrastructure in The Economist in the eyes of a child. So this is the front end, right? So it's comprised of our server application and our client application, which are the same because there's morphism. These are mid-tier services, which are built by another team who's doing a great job, by the way. They're doing Golang and stuff. And yeah, we do requests to them, which is this arrow, and they do requests to Drupal. And then Drupal talks to MySQL and it falls over. This is exactly what happens. And those green dots have been removed from the infrastructure, so it's even simpler now. So I'm going to talk a bit about GraphQL. Oh yeah, and GraphQL is right about here. And GraphQL is basically, you know what GraphQL is? Who has used GraphQL around here? Yeah? Yeah, oh, I'm impressed. Super cool. Yeah, so you guys know GraphQL is the realization that you've been querying data all along. Like, you've been trying to get the things which belong to things or which are related to things, and you've been querying this data, and it actually looks a lot like a graph. So yeah, this is a super simple example of a super simple query, which should get you some content of the homepage. Like you get the title of the homepage, the children of the homepage. In our example, our homepage is a list of things that go on top of each other. And the children, which are the actual articles under those things, it's obviously not this simple. And then you build the schema, which is super cool. I have no idea why this DSL is so complicated, but you get the idea. And it's really easy to create a GraphQL server on top of pretty much anything. Like you can return JSON, you can talk to MySQL if you like to go down. So yeah, we always traverse graphs. GraphQL seems to have the exact amount of magic that I personally want in a library. Like it's some magic, not too much magic. Like resolve promises on its own, sure, but query 600 things on its own without me calling fetch, no, go away. It works with any backend, again, including return JSON from some file, which is super useful for working ahead of the other teams which we are working with, and asynchronously. Yeah, and there are some problems with it. One does not simply cache an arbitrary query language. I will say this again, one does not simply cache an arbitrary query language. To cache stuff properly, you need to propagate upstream error codes back, which is, if we talk to the mid-tier guys, which were around here on that picture, and they talk to Drupal, and Drupal talks to MySQL, and they fall over, which happens all the time. They will propagate the 500 error response back, and then when we respond with the GraphQL string, what do? Like GraphQL by default, the Happy GraphQL and the Express GraphQL plugins that I know of, they will reply with 200 all the time. So this was kind of weird. We had to get to deal with it. And try to tell your infra people that you want to cache post requests, because GraphQL wants to use post because of the URL limit, the URL length limit, which is about 210K. So yeah, it uses post, which is super not resty, and like your caches will not like it. So you're going to have some problems with it. This is a cool part of GraphQL which we chose not to use. So why am I showing this? So if you do a query for one thing which works and one thing which fails, you'll get this response back, which is a partial response. So we chose not to use this because we consider that partial failure is a bad idea in the terms of our application, especially. Oh my, again. Yeah, so this is awesome. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I have quite some slides which seemed to fit on the page, but are not going to. We didn't want this, so we had to do some little hackery. So another great thing about GraphQL, GraphQL. This is what you're writing descriptions on all of your fields for. It reads your descriptions, like the stuff you wrote in the code, and you didn't know why. It documents your GraphQL graph thing, and you can distribute it, and you can give it to other teams so that they know what they're querying, because they don't have the code checked out, and because they don't know it because your code is a mess. This is super wonderful, and yeah. And this is a great part of GraphQL again. Like it's great at finding out for all this stuff. Like if you want to get a list page, and they only give you the URLs for the items of the list, and you want to do a request for each of the items on the list, and then on each item of the list, there's like something which you have to query another service for. GraphQL is great at this. It'll do very well. And yeah, there's this thing which at least it was on the Happy GraphQL thing, but it will probably be in the Express GraphQL and other plugins, which is you get to pass a root value object to the query. So the query can come with a request ID, so you can propagate it to all the other nodes, so that your logs can have you can find the thread of all the requests that were made, all the 500 requests you have to do to fetch a single page. And yeah, you can also pass more advanced stuff like accumulators, like performance checkers, and in the form of some simple JSON objects, which you call functions and stuff, and the possibilities are endless here. And it's 1 per request. So yeah, these are random tips. This is the part where I act all smug, and I'm going to tell you what to do, but don't do it. So yeah, as your queries start doing more and more requests, you're going to need to use retries. Like if you need 500 requests to render a page, you're going to need to use retries, especially if your infrastructure is not reliable. Otherwise, just 1 request failing and everything goes down immediately. And that's kind of terrible, and I don't think you want this. So yeah, this is something that we found the hard way. If we're building a content-based website like ours, which has like contents and sections containing content, like posts and blogs and other things, like collapse all of your types into a single type and call it content. And like it'll be your list type, it will be your posts type. Because if you think about it, like even your typical blog, like it has an introduction on top. So it's pretty similar to a blog post. And sometimes they'll come to you with requirements like, I want blog posts to have children. Okay, the GraphQL schema supports it. Nice. So that's one thing which is easier. And you can forget about versioning because you don't get weird arity problems with GraphQL because arity is always 1. So you can always do GraphQL/v2 later, or never do versioning because GraphQL allows you to do to change your field names and move on with your life. And GraphQL, you can just get their demo page with wget, and it turns out that you can just serve that as a static, and it just works because all the script files are being acquired for somewhere else. I'm telling you this because I spent 2 days trying to get it to work on our environment, and I was getting dependency hell because GraphQL wanted a different version of GraphQL from the one that I wanted. You wanted a different version of React from the one that I had, and I don't even want to talk about it. It depended on Babel for some reason. So no. And yeah, now I'm going to talk about Relay, and I get to bitch about Babel some more. So Relay, it's the yeah, I'm kind of repeating some stuff, but you basically declare what data you want, and you create your components, and Relay magically fetches stuff for you, and it will magically fetch stuff for you. You remember I was talking about the right amount of magic? Relay is crossing the line. So this is a reusable comment item container, and you can see that you have this this comment thing, and it uses a user info container, which is also a Relay container, which is also a React component. And you can see here the get fragment call, which goes into the user info container to get the user fragment, which is basically an expansion of the fields it wants from the author thing, and the author is of the type user. And you can basically reuse these things because the comment is a component which goes below a post, and it's basically dead. You're not going to use the comment anymore. But the user avatar, you're going to want to use it like, it's probably going to be next to your posts, like in the end, like saying who wrote it and stuff like that. And if it's in your GraphQL schema, you can fetch it, and you can use the same user info component to render it. And this is super cool. And Relay knows how to do data hiding, which is a big thing, because we don't accidentally seep into the requirements that other components were having, and then we change the other components, and then something else fails. No, that's not cool. Relay knows to hide the data from you. So when you try, like if comment tries to do this.props.comment.author.name, they will get undefined, but Relay will magically expand that information for user info, again, magically. And yeah, both the client and the server can use it to get data from GraphQL, which is super neat. Your code declares the data you need. It comes with a cache for the client. It's unfortunately on the server, and that's an open issue on their side. Everything seems easy to do, but server-side rendering is not quite there yet because they don't seem to support it in Relay itself. So you have to opt into some other stuff. And this is kind of a mess because there's tons of dependency hell here. You need isomorphic relay router, isomorphic relay, and React router relay. Just so you can use React router and relay and server-side relay, you need like 600 modules. They have a memory leak on if you try to use it on the server, and it ties into Bubble 6. And if you don't know Bubble 6, how many of you guys know Bubble? How many of you guys are using Bubble 6? It came out in like September or November or something. And you know why it's called 6, right? Came out 6 months before it was ready. And actually, it's been like 10 months now. So I'm beginning to think it's actually 6 years before it was ready, because the thing is like, no. And really, yeah, on the one hand, that data magically appears on the page for you to use. And on the other hand, it appears on the page for you to use magically. Like, I don't think you guys want this. Like, I had a great time with Relay, but sometimes the thing would just troll me endlessly because it's doing stuff for me. So like, it never did anything weird. I never actually found a bug in Relay, and I never actually found anything which was truly unintuitive. But sometimes it would troll me. And yeah, so there's also good stuff to Relay. So you can poison Relay's cache so that when the browser renders the page, runs the JavaScript, initializes Relay, Relay doesn't do the same requests for the data you already have on the page. So yeah, you do this, then you get it on by ID, and you put it in there. It's really cool. More cool stuff. So both the server and the client do GraphQL requests, which you can cache on the same place, which is really cool. You can have a single varnish thing, which will have the same data as from the same data request on the client and on the server. And this is like excellent in that Relay has a query mechanism where it splits the data queries such that you don't have you don't keep requesting the icons you have in the footer. You just request the parts of the page which change. But because of this, it also will do the same queries on the server and on the client. The exact same queries, which is awesome. And this could have been an accident. It's not. They meant it to be like that. So I'm super thankful. Yeah, this. So this piece of code, which you can see here, which is kind of ugly, but you can put it in the function. It does a request using Relay, and you can use the relay.ql thing and use a fragment as if you were and declare a query as if you were declaring a fragment on Relay. And you can use that to do contract tests. And this was kind of mind-blowing because my contract tests are now a declaration as well, pretty much, which is super cool. Like, if the latest print edition component isn't able to get everything that it wants from the content, it will fail. So this is really cool. And GraphQL, if it's not able to satisfy the requirements, it will also fail. So if you're doing contract tests, this is a really neat trick you can do. And you can also do some extra assertions like this field should be true. Yeah. So this was kind of wonderful. And it avoids you having to write contract tests, which are super boring because you're going to like do the same queries your code already does and then do assertions on them. So this makes it a bit easier and more palatable. So yeah, about this memory leak. So I blame Relay. Back in January, we implemented server-side rendering. And as soon as we implemented it, Relay started leaking memory like crazy. It turns out to have tons of caches everywhere. And it's they have plugged some of it in the meantime, but they haven't fully plugged it because they are not thinking of the third-party libraries and because they have a cache for the queries, which you don't want on the server. So say about after 100 requests, we would have like 30 megs of a leak. After 300 requests, we would just shut down the server. So we decided to risk it and bet on the Relay team. They certainly will eventually deliver. They have currently come up with a pretty nice plug for Leak, but it's not complete yet. And we got away with it out of sheer DevOps, which is exactly what happened. And it's exactly what you think. We restarted the application when it had too much memory. It's not funny. So yeah, in conclusion, like Relay seems to have no impact on server-side performance, and even though it does so much magic, and GraphQL is powerful, like nothing here really gets in your way, like in between you and utter decimation of your requirements. And apart from this memory leak, this was pretty uneventful, and this is probably the most telling thing in that I want to tell you. Like, this was uneventful. Like, there was no big issue. Like, the memory leak was a 1 week problem, which we fixed. Nothing else really happens, and these things are really young right now, so I find that really impressive. And yeah, there's not much I have to say, actually. So yeah, that's it. If anyone has any questions to ask of an idiot, go ahead.
You got away with it as well.
What?
You got away with it as well. No questions, no. What about mutations? Do you struggle with those?
Oh, I forgot to mention them. They have the worst API possible. But it turns out that our website doesn't have mutations, so that's okay.
Oh, okay.
We won't use them ever. So that's really good. So yeah, I guess if you have mutations, just don't. Or wait for them to evolve their API somewhat.
The other thing, I haven't really looked at Relay for about 6 months, but the extra bits on top of GraphQL, have they gone yet or not?
We are not using them, and you can live without them.
Okay.
You just have to do your own pagination, in that you define your protocol for pagination. It's not hard.
Cool. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for coming. Join us over there for a beer if you fancy it, and we'll see you next month. If you want to talk, speak to Amy. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
I have something to give you back.
Yeah.